Pakyuke kudan dagi lu, Pakyuke sundan dagi ngan, Pakyuke tudan dagi yi, Yerme chiktu jingi lu, Makyuke kudan dagi lu, Makyuke sundan dagi ngan, Makyuke tudan dagi yi, Ten yerme chiktu jingi lo. Om muni muni maha muni shakya muni swaha. Sangye chedan tsoge chanam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi rola pinchira sangye druparasho Sangye chedan tsoge chanam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi Drola pinchira sangye druparasho Sangye chedan tsogi chonamla Chancho pardo dani kyaps Dagi jinso gibe sonamgi Drola pinchira sangye druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, there was the great master Geshe Chekawa, from whom wrote also the 7 Points Mind Training. In another text, in another context, he said one very important phrase for me, which was, the mind has many, many faults, but it has one great quality. Whatever you teaches, it follows. Okay. So, the point for us is using this quality of our mind to direct ourselves in a positive way. That's something very important. So as we follow here these teachings, we actually follow a process of directing our mind, because as we said before, we are made out of habits, and we do not act much out of understanding. We act with body, speech, and mind much more out of our habits. We have habits, physical habits, verbal habits, mental habits. And that's what actually makes us to act and react. We act much more out of our own habits than out of our understanding, normally. Okay? So the process here is that we need to create positive habits and to overcome our negative habits. So basically, we have here two main tools, two main processes, let's say, in order to do that. One is based on somehow repetition, which means I repeat, and it's based on the quality of our mind, that when with what we teach, the mind follows. No? And as also Shantideva in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, he said, there is nothing that is not easy once you get used to it. So once you get used to something, it becomes easy. In the beginning, it's difficult. Then we do, repeat. Then after some time, it becomes less difficult. Until a moment, it becomes easy. Until a moment, it can become completely natural even. So the fact is that by repetition, we can change and we can train ourselves. So this is one of the aspects that we have here in the teachings, which is, okay, we recognize what are the behaviors, what are the habits that we want to change, and then we somehow induce ourselves in an artificial way, which means we force ourselves to a certain behavior, so that we know that it's the correct behavior, so that gradually it becomes natural and spontaneous. The next part is the fact that the best method to eliminate a certain thought, to eliminate a certain state of mind, which can be a state of thought or an emotion and so on, it is to generate an opposite one. Because if we try simply to eliminate that, it's very, very difficult. For example, the example we gave the last time was, we are not able to think at the same time, I like water and I don't like water. Okay? This is another quality of our mind. We are not able to have two directly opposite thoughts at the same time, or one or the other. We can exchange from one to the other quite fast, but we cannot have both of them together. So what happens is that when we say I like water or I don't like water, if we want to change the thought I like water, we need to generate the thought I don't like water. If we have the thought I don't like water and we want to eliminate it, we need to generate I do like water, okay? So similar to that, when we have a state of mind that we recognize that is harmful to ourselves and others, and we see that it's not something good for ourselves, we need to generate an opposite state of mind. Okay? And all of this is what we talk about, these teachings of Lojong, which are called the mind training. We need to remember very much the word training, because mind training, Zhongwa in Tibetan, in the Lojong, Lo means mind, Zhong means to train. It means to repeat something that does not come spontaneously, that is not natural to us, that is sometimes difficult to do. But by repeating it again and again and again, slowly it becomes less difficult, then it becomes easy, and then finally it becomes totally spontaneous and natural. That's when we realize it. That's when it completes the training. Okay? So, we, from the 7 points mind training, this mind training is divided into 7 points. Today is our last lesson teachings from this course. So we have to go through the 5th, 6th, and 7th point. Okay? It would be better if we had another 2 days, but we are going to be able to see all of them today. Okay? So we're going to go directly to these points because we have a lot to see yet today. We go now. We have already seen the first 4 points of the mind training. Okay? And we have today 5, 6, and 7, so we'll concentrate well in order to be able to see all of them, and there is quite a lot to see. So, the first point that we have seen is to train in the preliminaries. Second, the actual practice, training in the awakening mind, which means to train in love, compassion, and to train in wisdom, relative and absolute bodhicitta. Then we have the third point, which is transforming adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. Then the fourth point, the integrated practice of a single lifetime that we have seen the day before yesterday, which are the 5 powers regarding lifetime and regarding death. And then today we have the 5th, 6th, and 7th point, from which the 5th is the measure of having trained the mind. Measure for having trained the mind means, how do I know if I am training my mind correctly or not? How do I know if I am going or not in the correct path? Because if I make a mind training process, if I am training myself, I need to know if my training is going well or not. I need to have some reference on that, you know. When we make an external training, physical training somehow is easier. I need to do an exercise. Okay, I can do the exercise in a better way. My body's moving is more flexible. I can run faster. I can have a better concentration. I get the target easily. I don't know, we can have different sort of references to see if we are training ourselves correctly or not, no? Before I could only jump 1 meter, now I can jump 1.5 meters. I don't know, whatever, okay? But here we need to have other references which are internal because we are mind training. So it's an internal reference to see if we are training ourselves well or not. Because we may think we are training ourselves well, but maybe we are going in the opposite direction, okay? So how am I training myself? This is the important thing. So here there are different points to know if we are training ourselves correctly or not. So it starts by saying, Chökun gompa chiktu du pangpo nikyang tsoworsung, yide bashin gyuntu ten, jangpe tsenyi lokpa yin, jongta chenpo nga den yin, yengyang tumna jongpa yin. Integrate all the teachings into one thought. Primary importance should be given to the two witnesses. Constantly cultivate only a peaceful mind. The measure of a trained mind is that it has turned away. There are 5 great marks of a trained mind. The trained mind retains control even when distracted. Okay, so we start with the first. Integrate all the teachings into one thought. This means our mind has been trained well when every practice that we do, it doesn't matter if I am doing silent meditation, if I am doing the practice of self-healing, if I am reciting a mantra, if I am doing Guru Puja, if I am studying philosophy, if I am going for a pilgrimage, if I am doing karma yoga, it doesn't matter what am I doing, it must all be for the same purpose. What is this purpose? Develop love, compassion, wisdom. Eliminate ignorance and selfishness. Develop relative absolute bodhicitta, which is the same meaning. In other words, I want to reach enlightenment for the benefit of others. So, if we put all the practices that we do into the same objective, this means is one of the signs that we are going in the right direction. It's not like, okay, I do this because I want to generate that type of energy, and I do that because I think it's nice, and I do that other thing because my Lama told me, but we are disconnected from the main goal. And sometimes we may experience the practices as a final goal instead of experiencing the practices as a mean, as a tool. So all the practices that we do, all the teachings that we receive, they are all a tool, a mean, for something greater, which is so-called liberation, so-called enlightenment, which in other words is to train ourselves in relative and absolute bodhicitta, which in other words is to train ourselves in love, compassion, and wisdom, by at the same time eliminating our ignorance and our selfishness. So the first sign of having trained of training correctly our mind is when everything that we do, we put it on the same direction. Okay? Everything that we do here is specifically related to spiritual practices. So when we study the Dharma, when we make a meditation, when we recite a mantra, it doesn't matter what we do, it should go all in the same direction, which is I want to eliminate my ignorance, develop love and compassion and wisdom, because I want to reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay? So this is the first sign of having trained our mind correctly. Integrate all the teachings into one thought. I think it's quite clear, right? Okay. So we continue. Second point is said, Pangpo Nikyang Tsowo Sung. Primary importance should be given to the two witnesses. Who are the two witnesses? Ourselves and others. These are the two witnesses. So basically, what we should do is that, how do we know if we are changing our mind, if our training is going well or not? One of the ways is we give importance to how do we see ourselves and how others see ourselves. These are two things important, because we need to give value for our own perception, our own understanding of ourselves, but also we need to give value for what other people think. Sometimes we are not able to see ourselves clearly, and sometimes other people do not judge ourselves correctly also. So we need to give importance to both aspects. How do I see myself and how do other people see myself? So when I ask myself, am I training myself correctly or not? One of the ways of understanding this is by actually looking at specific situations. Okay, there is one type of situation which I experience now, and I used to experience also before. Do I react in the same way or not? Do I have more patience or do I have less patience? Do I have more love or do I have less love? Do I have more awareness or less awareness? Do I have more acceptance or less acceptance? We need to look and we need to check based on specific situations. Do I try to make my life more meaningful or less meaningful? Do I have more commitment or less commitment? We need to understand by seeing the same type of situation before and the situation now. And by that we can understand better what changes have happened in our mind, if we are correctly training ourselves or not. Okay? The same thing happens in relation to others. Not only we should check ourselves, we also should check with others. By looking with other people and seeing their judgment regarding us. How am I according to you? Am I the same? Has there been any difference from 1 year to now, from 6 months to now, in this situation, in that situation? We need to understand from others. So not only we should look our own judgment, but we should also give value to a constructive criticism that come from others. So we should also give value how what other people think about us, not from the point of view of my image, but from the point of view of understanding better myself. Because sometimes we are not able to judge ourselves so clearly. So we need to use both our judgment and other people's judgment. That's why we say there are two main witnesses, ourselves and others. So by that together we can have a better, clear understanding how things are going. Which also means here we need to check ourselves from time to time. We need to look upon ourselves and see, how am I going? Is it going well? Am I not going well? It's important for us to do that also in order to direct ourselves more clearly. Okay? I think it's quite clear, right? Okay. Then we move on for the next one. So the next point. I'm trying to be very objective and direct to the point, because we have a lot of things to see. Next point says, Yidebashi Gyntuten. Constantly cultivate only a peaceful mind. The word here actually in Tibetan, Yide, more than peaceful, it means a happy mind. Dewa means happiness. Yi means mind. Okay? So constantly cultivate only a happy state of mind. Constantly cultivate only a joyful mind, a happy mind. What does that mean? That in the moments that I truly practice the mind training correctly, it means that when I am experiencing a difficult moment, I dedicate that may everyone be free from such difficulty and such suffering. So I make that moment meaningful. When I am experiencing a good and joyful moment, I dedicate that may everyone experience joy also in the same way. I open my heart and I cultivate love for others. So I make that moment meaningful also. So putting it in few words, what happened is that when I truly practice well the mind training, I am making both moments meaningful, the difficult moments and the good moments also. I can experience both moments in a meaningful way. And when we experience life in a meaningful way, even though it may be difficult, it brings a deeper level of joy. It's not the happiness based on pleasure. It's the happiness based on doing something meaningful. It's a deeper state of satisfaction and happiness. So this brings us back to what we said the last teaching, the day before yesterday, which we concluded saying, our objective is not to have a comfortable, pleasurable life. Our objective is to have a meaningful life. Then, if our meaningful life is also comfortable and pleasurable, okay, wonderful, no problem, We put together the meaningful and the pleasurable together. That's nice, but our objective is not to have a pleasurable, comfortable life. Our objective is to have a meaningful life. And when we have a meaningful experience, when we do things in a meaningful way, this will bring us a deeper level of happiness and satisfaction, which is a much actually better state than the simple state of comfortable pleasure. So, if we are training our mind correctly, we will constantly cultivate only a state of joy, only a state of peace, only a state of happiness, which is the happiness that comes from experiencing life in a meaningful way. When we know that we are on the right place, we are doing the right thing, we feel comfortable within that. This is when we feel this state of joy, which comes from making our life meaningful. And how we do that by training our mind into love and wisdom in every situation we are. So when we are training correctly, it means we do not depend anymore on the condition, we don't depend anymore on the situation. It depends mainly on our inner state of mind. And this means we are training ourselves correctly. That's why it's said constantly, wherever I am, whenever it may be, wherever I go, with whomever I am happy. Happy in a deeper level, which means I can have difficult moments and so on, but I feel a deeper state of satisfaction because I know that I'm doing something meaningful, and I feel that it is meaningful. Okay? So this means constantly cultivate only a mind of peace, a joyful mind, or a peaceful mind, or a mind of happiness. It's more correct translation. So, the next point says, Jangwe Tseni Lokpayin. The measure of a trained mind is that it has turned away. It has changed direction. Which means, how do we know exactly when we have trained our mind? When we have completed our training? Our training is complete from the moment that it changes direction. It turns away from our selfishness. We have completed our training in the moment that we are not acting anymore out of selfishness, but we are acting in an altruistic, respectful way. In the moment that our main objective is not the benefits of the I and the mine, but is the benefits of the whole. Is when we make no more distinction between I and my and others. Is when I do something for others, I'm doing it also for myself. When I do something for myself, I'm also doing it for others. Now we experience reality in a dualistic way, through which we make a division between the I, the my, and the others. Instead, when we train our mind, when we complete the training, when we turn away from that attitude, when we change direction, it means that when I do something for myself, I'm doing it for others. When I do something for others, I'm doing it also for myself. I'm not making anymore that strong distinction and division. So we go beyond that duality. So, this is one of the main signs that we have completed our training. So what is the opposite state of mind of selfishness? Is actually the so-called bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, this deep state of love and compassion through which we deeply wish to develop our qualities for the benefit of others so we can help others. So our training may take 3 years, may take 10 years, may take 20 years, may take 30 years, or may take 3 lives or 30 lives, who knows? Okay. So the point is that how do we know when we have completed our training? Because the training of the Bodhisattva, it's a training that can go for many lives. It's not something that necessarily is in only one lifetime. And that for many of us, I believe, when we really deeply connect to it and we go to do the Bodhisattva training, it is something that very often started from another life. And then we go and we take back and we continue. So it is a long process from life and lives, actually. Okay. Anyhow, if we see Buddha Shakyamuni, it is said that on his own path of the Bodhisattva, his training as a Bodhisattva to reach enlightenment, he took, after he developed bodhicitta as a Bodhisattva, it was 500 lives. Yeah. Okay. We call Kyewa Takpangapkya da Matapangapkya. Actually, Buddha Shakyamuni had 500 lives as a Bodhisattva. There were 500 lives as a human being and 500 lives as an animal. Different animals, both as Bodhisattvas, as Bodhisattva, in order to help others and so on, before reaching enlightenment. Because Buddha, in his teachings, he taught the stories of his previous lives. Actually, there are sutras where he's telling the story of his own previous life and the previous life of his disciples. So when he tells about his own previous life as Bodhisattvas, as a Bodhisattva, he talked about 500 lives as animals and 500 lives as human. as a bodhisattva. So what I want to say is that once we develop bodhisattva, our training is not something that goes from 1 or 2 years, It's a longer time of training. So how do we know that we have actually reached the conclusion, not of the final training, is what we are talking about, the 500 lives of Buddha as human and non-human. It means up to enlightenment. Okay? Here we are talking now here of something before, which is the training of developing bodhicitta. So how do I know that I have reached this first level of training, which we can do in one lifetime also, but it may take also more than one lifetime? It is that our mind have changed direction. The direction of our actions, the direction of our thought is not anymore the obsession with the I and the mind of self-gratification. It is a general benefit of all sentient beings. That's when we see that we have trained our mind in bodhicitta. Okay? So, the conclusion of the part of how verifying the state if we have trained our mind or not is the main part of it. And it says, the measure of a trained mind is that, this we have already seen. Jongta chenpo nga deyin, yin kyang tubna jongpayin. There are 5 great marks of a trained mind. The trained mind retains control even when distracted. So first of all, we need to see what are the great marks of a trained mind. Because when we talk about another physical type of training, as we have said, it's more easy for us to understand if we have been training well or not. How do we know here if our mind training is going well or not? One of the main ways is checking if we have these 5 marks of a trained mind. So the 5 great marks are said to be the great patience, the great state of mind, the great mind, the great virtuous conduct, the great morality, and the great yoga. Okay? So what are these? So we start with the first one, the great patience. The great patience, the great sign of patience, is when we do not react with aggression or violence towards any situation of suffering. Okay? So the first sign of having trained our mind is to develop patience. So patience means not reacting with aggressivity, with violence, with anger, and so on, towards an object of anger, towards a situation of suffering and difficulty. Also because one of the parts of our training is to train ourselves into transforming the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. So, if we do this training well, we have no more reason, though, to react with aggression, to react with violence to difficult and moments of suffering. So, the first sign of having trained the mind is when we do not react anymore with aggression and with anger and violence towards them in the moments of difficulty and suffering. Second mark of having trained the mind, the second great mark, it is called the great mind, which could be translated as Mahatma also in Sanskrit, like when we call Mahatma Gandhi, the great being, the great mind. So the great mind here refers to a mind of altruism, to a mind of love. When we truly open our heart to others, when we are able to give importance for the happiness of others, in a way without making any more distinction between the friend, the enemy, or the indifferent, when we are able to value each and every one and to value the happiness of each and every one, this means that we have developed the second mark of a trained mind. The third mark of a trained mind is called the great virtuous conduct, which means when constantly we are inseparated from a virtuous conduct, which means when our action of body, when our action of speech, and when our actions of mind are in accordance with the Dharma, when we have a coherent way of acting with body, speech, and mind, with the teachings of the Buddha, with the teachings of Dharma. So when we have a conduct of body, speech, and mind that is coherent with the teachings, is when we have developed this great conduct, great virtuous conduct. Okay. Then we have the fourth point, which is called, it's not exactly that the perfect translation, but I would translate like that now, the great morality, which basically is when we are able to avoid even the smallest of all negative actions. It means that when we are able to avoid, even if it's a very, very small, looks like insignificant, meaningless negative action, we avoid it also. So we have the third one, which is the virtuous conduct. That means we act in a positive way in accordance with the Dharma. And then we have the great morality, which is the ability to avoid the negative conduct, even the smallest that it may be. And then the fifth point is called the great yoga. The great yoga comes with the meaning from the word yoga. Yoga in Tibetan is called Neljor. It's made out of two words. It's a composed word, and it's called Nalma and Jorwa. Nalma la Jorwa. Nalma means the natural state, the pure state, the natural state. Jor means to enter. Jor means to act, means to enter, means to unite also. So it means to enter into something in its most in a natural state. So when we say about yoga, yoga means to do an action, to enter, in the most natural way, in the way how it in its own true nature. So here it means to enter into the Mahayana path, to be into the Mahayana path in a natural state, without forcing, without needing to put specific effort more. It's just to be naturally on the path to enlightenment. So, once again, the 5 signs of having trained ourselves, which doesn't mean that we need to wait until this training is complete. We can see also, we use these 5 signs to check how is our training going. If we need to see if we have more patience, if we have more love, if our conduct is more virtuous, if we are able to avoid more negative behavior and actions, and if we are more naturally on the path to enlightenment or not. Okay? So these are the 5 marks of a trained mind. To have great patience, to have a great mind of love and compassion, to have a great conduct of virtue, to have a great morality of avoiding negative actions, and to be naturally on the path to enlightenment. Okay? These are the 5 great marks. And as the text continues, it says, the trained mind retains control even when distracted. The trained mind retains patience, great love, virtuous conduct, great morality, and naturally on the path, even when distracted. Distracted means even when not consciously thinking about that. So in the moment that we are walking, laying down to sleep, in the moment that we are having fun, eating, working, whatever, at every moment the mind is on these 5 points. And it's on the path to enlightenment. It's always with patience, always with love, always with of virtuous conduct, always avoiding negative actions, and always natural on the path to enlightenment. If when we have these 5 points at every moment, even when distracted, it means that we have trained our mind. When we have a state of bodhicitta, even when distracted, it means we have trained our mind. Okay? So this we are talking about the training of bodhicitta. Once with that, then we need to go, we have completed the first training, we develop bodhicitta, then we need to go to the next training, which is we need to train ourselves into perfecting generosity, morality, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom. Then the conclusion is enlightenment. That's when we conclude the next training. But this is the first training, which is training on this to develop bodhicitta. Yeah. No. Okay, we can control even when distracted. It means there are moments when we are not distracted in which we are consciously thinking about something. So, for example, when I am sitting to meditate, when I am doing my prayers, when I'm thinking about I must act with patience, I need to do this, I need to do that, oh, love all sentient beings, bodhicitta, I am thinking about it, okay? My energy is in that direction. Then we have moments in which we are not thinking consciously about it. Moments, maybe I am just eating, maybe I am driving, maybe I am sleeping, maybe I am whatever, watching television, who knows what, okay? So even in that moments when our mind is following the same exact direction, that's when we are trained even when distracted, okay? So with this we conclude the fifth point of the measure of having trained the mind, which is a very important point also. And we will enter now into the next 2 points, which are very, very important, which is the commitments of mind training and the precepts of mind training. Now we enter the 6th and 7th points of our mind training, which regards to vows and our 18 commitments and 22 advices. The main difference between commitments and advices are that the commitments are what we should not do, while the advices is what we should do. They are very important because from the moment that we truly want to follow the mind training, we want to train our mind in love, compassion, and wisdom, and so on, there are some rules that we need to respect in order to help us to do such training. Like some limits that we give to ourselves in order to help us to do that. And from all the different vow systems that exist within Buddhist teachings, from what I have seen up to now, I believe that the mind training commitments and advices are one of the most suitable vows that we can take in our times and social context in which we are. So let's see them. So point number 6, the commitments of mind training. Drukpa Lojong ge tamsik tembani. Chitun sumla taktulab dumba gyurla ransor sha. The first point is called always train in the 3 general points. The original text is only written always train in the 3 general points, and then after here, to make it more easy in the text, we have written which are the 3 general points, okay? So the 3 general points are the Tibetan for it's here. Lojong ge kelanda magalwa, tojur mashorwa chogre marsonwa. Don't go against the mind training you promised to observe. So do not act in a way that is incoherent with the mind training that you promised to observe. Okay? So this is the first thing. Do not go against it. Second, don't be reckless in your practice. This word in Tibetan, the word tocho. Tocho, it has 2 different meanings if we look in the dictionary. One meaning is to act in a rough way, not making distinction between the correct and incorrect way of acting, of behavior. Okay? The other meaning means to be fearless. Fearless in the sense that the description in the dictionary says, not fearless in the sense of having courage, but maybe reckless is a better word, but it means like not seeing the dangers when the dangers exist. Okay? So, the meaning of that basically is we should not act like if we are a sort of superhero because I am practicing the mind training, the Lojong, and because of that I can go in the middle of war and nothing is going to happen to me, or I can go in the middle of people with an infectious disease and I would not become sick because I have the mind training or whatever else, okay? We should not think that because we are practicing the mind training, we are superior to who knows what, and we are not going to be, harmed by the different dangers that are there. So do not feel superior Do not feel that you will not be harmed only because you are practicing the mind training. Remember, you are a human being just as everyone else. So remember your own limits as you follow your practice. The third point, do not be partial. Do not be partial in Tibetan Chodra Marsoma. It can have two different types of meaning. One is practice at all times and at all circumstances. Do not be partial. Second, practice with everyone. Not like I practice with my friends, Lojong, and I don't practice the mind training with my enemies. I practice with those that I like, I don't practice with those that I don't like. No, we should practice at every circumstance, at every time, with everyone. So, do not be partial. The fourth vow says, Dumba Gyurla Ransor Sha. Transform your attitude but maintain your natural behavior. Which means, transform your inner attitude but maintain an external behavior natural. Which means, keep your behavior in accordance to the cultural context in which you are, the social context in which you are. Don't change your external behavior to show that you are transforming your mind. So we don't need to dress in a different way, or we don't need to put our hair, I don't know, in whatever way, or show that I am a great Dharma practitioner to people, and to show in different ways, we use strange words and we have strange behaviors. No, we should behave in accordance to the social and cultural context in which we are. It's not like most of the people act in one way, and I will act differently because I want to show to them that I am different inside. This is very dangerous. Okay? Instead, we should just change our inner behavior and the external way of being. We just keep it naturally as it should be in the social, cultural context in which we are. Then, sure, by changing our inner attitude, it would have an influence in our external behavior. It's going to come as a natural result. That's okay. But we should not, on purpose, make an external change of our behavior just to show that we are having an internal transformation. Okay, this is very dangerous. It has been given a great, great importance to what is called, given the example in Tibetan, which is said like the candle with inside a vase. Said that inside of ourselves we should keep our realizations like as if they were inside a vase. The light is there, but it's not showing to the world. Which means we should not tell others or show to others deliberately our realizations. Because if we do that, after some time, it's not a matter of loving others, it's a matter of others seeing that we are loving them. Okay? And then we are already in the wrong path. Then we are polluting our path and we are polluting our practice. So we do not need to show that. This makes me remember there was one great Lama. He's living in the West. And he was staying one period in the house of one of my other teachers in India. His name was the Panchen Lobsang Chokyi Gyaltsen, the abbot of Tashilumpo in India, one of the greatest masters. And a friend of mine, he was constantly going there very often. And he said that this Lama, he was doing his daily meditation. And then in the room, the door of the room was mostly open because of the heat, and there was just this cloth on front. No? So sometimes he looked inside, and he was really meditating, very concentrated and well. And if while doing his meditation, he saw that someone was observing him, he would just make like as if he was sleeping. Because most probably he didn't want to show that he was making great meditation or anything like that. Okay? So in Tibet, this point of not showing our inner qualities, our inner realizations deliberately, it has been given so much importance that there are many stories about people that show their realizations and they were sent away of the monastery because of that. Or also because of this, it's really like to praise oneself and to show one's qualities is something that is so badly seen. So, for example, one of my teachers in Tibet, the abbot of Tashilhunpo, Panchen Lobsang Rinpoche, he is one of the most well-known and well-respected masters nowadays in Tibet. He's already in his 84 years, and he's one of the elders respected by all different traditions, Sakya, Nyingma, Kargyo, Gelu, and so on. And sometimes it happened that I was receiving teachings from him, and then I make him a question about, what about this? And I make a question, and he tells, according to Lama Tsongkhapa, in this text he said this, according to that other master he said that. He will make references and give me the answer. And then I will ask him, but what do you think about it? And then he would say, what does it matter what I think about it? It's just my thought. Who am I to say what I think about it? No? Then sometimes I would insist, and then after some time he would say, yes, okay, I tell you, but it really doesn't matter. And then he would tell me what he thought about it. You know, in the West we go to the direct opposite. We read 3 books and we write the 4th. It's like there's the attitude of very often showing off how much I know and I am so much knowledge and experience. It's exactly the opposite. But it's extremely important to keep this commitment, transform your inner attitude, but at the same time maintain your natural external behavior. Okay? Don't need to show to others what are your inner realizations. Okay? By this we can keep our realizations pure. Well, next part. Yang la nyamba jomi cha shencho kanya misamo. Don't speak of others' incomplete qualities. Don't concern yourself with others' business. Okay? Don't speak of others' incomplete qualities means do not criticize others. Okay? Do not criticize others doesn't mean that we cannot see the faults and the defects and the incomplete qualities of others. It means we should not just talk about others' defects and incomplete qualities out of nothing and adding many adjectives, saying he is this or he is that and so on. Make a simple example. Let's say one day I need to travel from one place to the other and I ask someone to drive for me. And then the person drives terribly. When I arrive in the place, or maybe it's still when I am in the road, I can text message or I can call someone and I start saying, what a terrible person, look how he drives, that's so terrible, he's like this and like that, and we can add many words to it. This means to criticize. Okay? And I can do it in a very gentle and subtle way also. But it's still criticizing. The other thing, which is we are not breaking this vow in the other situation, is I went with someone, the person drove very badly, I was afraid, I was not comfortable with it, and then when I arrived at the place, okay, finally I'm there, okay. Then someone come a few days later, or whenever, and ask me, oh, I need to go to that place, I'm looking for someone to drive for me, what do you think of that person? Okay, I'm not supposed to criticize. So what I say, my experience have not been positive. When that person drove for me, I was afraid, it was not safe. So my experience, I would not ask this person to drive for me. Finish. I don't need to add names, I don't need to add other things to it, I don't need to go on pouring my anger and what insatisfaction on that. I just need to say, that was my experience. This is what I would do. Finish. No? So, with this, it doesn't mean that we can never see the faults of others. It means we should not deliberately talk about others' faults and defects. Yes, Dupla? if you are in a situation where you are not the one that is bringing the fault, so you are not criticizing, but the other person is criticizing, one of the things that you can do is to answer regarding what can you and me do in order to make the situation better, instead of putting more wood in the fire. Okay? Which means, oh, you know, that person has this and that behavior. We can say, okay, what can we do? How can we interact to try to make the situation better? Okay? This is one of the ways how we can do. Try not to put more, not to make the thing bigger, okay? The next commitment is said, do not concern yourself with others' business, which is, I think, quite clear, right? Mind your own business, in which means, in Tibetan is written, Shen Chokaya Misamo. Shen means other, Chok means side. Kayang, whatever, Misam, don't think. Don't think at whatever thing of others' side, of others' people, which means mind your own business. Which here, it means also, like, we don't need to use our own inner space. We don't need to use our time, our space, to stay thinking about what other people are doing, what they are not doing, why they did like this, why they did like that, what he did, what he didn't do, why like this, what he have, what he don't have, and so on, and stay judging and looking and thinking about other people's life, you know. We need to stop watching soap opera, you know. We need to mind our own business, okay? So, with this, it doesn't mean that we cannot be concerned with others' suffering, for example. You know, there is someone is in a difficult situation, we can go there, we can look, we try to be concerned with other people's needs. One thing is to be concerned with others' suffering and needs. Another thing is to not mind one's own business and stay thinking about other people's lives. Okay? It's really, if we keep these vows, they are so precious. They are so simple, but at the same time, they are objective and they are very powerful also. Okay? But as we can see, these two behaviors of criticizing others and of not minding one's own business are two behaviors that exist from centuries and centuries and centuries, are not something that are to do with our modern society. So that's why since many centuries ago, since the time of Atisha and before, there was this commitment, do not criticize others and mind your own business. Why we need to make the commitment? Because it comes spontaneous to do it. So we make the commitment not to do it. Okay, I think it's quite clear. We have quite a lot of experience regarding these two things, so it's quite clear what we should avoid, right? One thing, if we have a friend that is going in a harmful way, we are giving an advice. We are not like pointing the finger and criticizing. And when we have a friend that is having a behavior that we think is not good, the point is not criticizing. The point is interacting in the way how we can help him to change the behavior. That's what we should do. Okay? Okay. Next. Nyamon kanchen ngoi la jan drebu rewa tamje pang tukchengi sepang shung sambo mite. Train to counter whichever disturbing emotion is greatest. Which means, whatever is the most stronger disturbing emotion, anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, non-acceptance, lack of commitment, whatever is our stronger defilement, that's the first one that we need to counteract. And not keep it aside. Okay, no, I have a strong aversion, but I keep it there. Let's start with something else. No. Whatever is the strongest mental defilement that we recognize, that's the first one that we should counteract. That's from where we need to start practicing and acting. Okay? Give up every hope of reward. Give up every hope of reward means when we act in accordance with the Dharma, we should not do anything we do, especially regarding the mind training, in order to gain something back, mundanely or spiritually. So I am not going to train myself in love and compassion so other people are nice and kind to me. I'm not going to train myself in love and compassion so that I can be seen as the great practitioner. I'm not going to train myself in love and compassion so that my guru can come and say, oh, how good you are. I'm not going to train in love and compassion and developing wisdom in order for me to get out of my own suffering. I'm doing it because I want to reach enlightenment to help others. So do not expect any reward, selfish reward. Okay? Sure, I want to accumulate merits, because by accumulating merits, I can reach enlightenment, and by reaching enlightenment, I can help others. If it's an altruistic intention, then it's positive. It is not negative, okay? But give up any hope of reward. It's very clear, any hope. When we have expectation, any hope of reward, mundane or spiritual. 9. Avoid poisonous food. Avoid poisonous food. Food is something that should nourish us, something good. But if the food is poisoned, what happens as a consequence? It will harm us and we will get sick and eventually die out of it. Okay? So even though I am hungry, if the food is poisoned, I should avoid it. Okay? Similar to that, our spiritual practice is the food for our path. Our meditation, our recitation of mantra, our reflections, our study of philosophy, all the things that we do inside our spiritual path, all the practices are the food for our path, are there to nourish our path. But if they are poisoned by our selfishness, better to abandon it. Okay? If I'm going to do many mantras because I want to be the best practitioner so that other people can come and say how good you are, better not to do it. Okay? One example is one of my teachers. His name is Geshe Thupten Rinchen. He's my main philosophy teacher. And he used to have a very, very particular attitude, which was when the Dalai Lama was giving teachings, were public teachings, were like 6,000, 9,000 people, so many people were there. And inside the temple, people would need to sit in accordance to the hierarchy of the monastery, which means around the throne were the abbots and the vice abbots and the main lamas. And then after that came the elder monks. And according to how many years you were already in the monastery, you will sit more near. Okay? Until the ones that just entered the monastery will be the last ones. Okay? And he had no title. He was a geshe, he's a geshe, but he had no title because, even now he still have no titles, because he never wanted to be an abbot. He was asked many times to become abbot. And even one time he escaped from the monastery and he didn't come back until he was not assured that he would never need to become abbot. And anyhow, this is another story. But what happened was that once he was coming to the teachings, the Dalai Lama would call him personally to come and sit nearby, together with the abbots. He would make a place and he'd call him personally to come and sit there. And he would never follow that. He would never sit nearby. He would always sit outside the temple, together with the lay people, because there was no place for everybody inside. There was outside, near a sound box, together with lay people. He would sit there. And then one time I asked him, I said, Gela, why don't you sit inside? You know, there is a place for you there. You can get a tea before, and you are more near to the teachings. Maybe it's better you are near to the Dalai Lama, you can see directly and so on. Isn't that better? And then he told me, the higher you sit, the more painful it will be when you fall. And then he told me, if I sit up there, I am looking around. Who is around there that is also sitting in the high place? And now then I am thinking, oh, what are they thinking about me that I am sitting here in the high place? Are they treating me with respect? Are they not treating me with respect? I am worried about all of that instead of concentrating myself in the teachings. I am making my ego to be stronger I'm inflating my ego instead of concentrating myself in the teachings. So I am not doing it because I know my own weakness. So I'm not giving space for that. So avoid poisonous food. What he was doing is he was avoiding poisonous food. Another example of this, there was one meditator, I forgot the name now. Is this in the teachings of Lama is explained this story. And he was doing retreat in a cave. And one day he knew that that was the day where his sponsor was coming. So what he did, it was he made the offerings. Every day he would make water offerings, but that day he went to look for flowers. He made the offerings much more beautiful. He cleaned around, which normally was not so clean. And he was preparing to make something very nice for this sponsor that was coming. Why? Because not out of gratitude, but because he wanted to gain more help. So it was something selfish that he was just thinking to gain something for himself. So after he prepared everything, what he did after that, he sat down to meditate, and then he looked at the offerings and he understood clearly that they were poisonous food. He understood clearly that he did something which was not enough. He said, I'm not doing offerings to the Buddhas, I'm doing offerings to my own selfishness here. So what he did is that he took from the ground earth and dirt and he threw on the offerings in the altar. He took all the dirt and he threw on the offerings and he sit there. And then when the sponsor came, he was not even almost looking so much to the sponsor. He was not nice at all. So when the sponsor went back, he was quite upset. And he was saying, you look, I'm not going to help anymore this guy. There he's meditating and look how dirty his whole temple is, his meditation place is. Even the offerings were full of dirt. And he's there clothing himself, not even saying hello nicely to me. And then he went to one of his teachers and he said, look at that, what he's doing. And he said, explain me how it was, the place. He was there sitting in his meditation place, not being so nice to me, all the offerings dirt with earth and surround. And then this master said, oh, how grateful. And then he explained to him what happened. He said, you see, what he's saying, he's throwing away poisonous food. Because he recognized that he was not making the offerings truly to the Buddhas, but to his own selfishness and his own attachment. So what he did is that he threw away that, okay? He went away. So when it says here, avoid poisonous food, is that when we see that there is something that is supposed to nourish our spiritual path, but actually it's nourishing our selfishness or is harming our path, is making us to be more sick in our path, then we should avoid it. Yeah, Bernard. Yeah. The interpretation that I gave, it is basically the one that Trishan Rinpoche gave here. We could give a different interpretation, this is for sure, no? Poisonous food itself, sure, it's harmful for ourselves, no? This is no doubt that... this is also, we could go through that interpretation, sure. Okay, bene. So, we go on. Oh, no, okay, next one, number 10, sorry. Okay, number 10. Don't maintain misplaced loyalty. Do not maintain misplaced loyalty means do not maintain loyalty with our own defilements and with our own wrong behaviors and bad habits. Okay, I think it's quite clear. Okay, so do not maintain loyalty with our own bad habits and with our own wrong behaviors and defilements. It's like if I have a company and there is someone in my company stealing money, but I like him because he's quite a nice person to me. I am not doing anything to stop him stealing money because I like him. That's a misplaced loyalty. Okay? It's like in the moment that I know that something is wrong, I should go against it, even though it has some sort of nice impact somewhere. So do not keep a misplaced loyalty. Do not keep loyalty with our own defilements, with our own bad habits, and so on. Okay? We will move on because we have many things to see yet. Next one. next three, they say, Zö kal langla micho, tolo micha, gyogit semite. Zö kal langla micho, tolo micha, gyogit semite. It says, don't burden an ox with the load of a zo. A zo is an animal which, if I'm not mistaken, is the cross between a yak and a cow. Okay? And it's an animal that is more strong than a bull. Okay? It's between the yak and the cow. Yeah. So what happened is that, anyhow, the zo is more strong than a normal bull. So what happened is that here it's called an ox. So the zo is stronger than an ox regarding the ability to carry weight. So do not take the burden of a zo and put on top of an ox. Okay? So do not burden an ox with the load, do not put the load of a zo on top of an ox. Which means do not take your own responsibilities and put on someone else. If something is my responsibility, I should keep it for myself. Because the example says, do not put into someone a load that is not of their responsibility. So I have my own responsibilities, I should keep them for myself, regarding both our commitments and our mistakes. So when we make a commitment, I will do something, I will do it. It's not that I make a commitment and suddenly I disappear and I make someone else to do it. I have my commitment, I keep my commitment. Second, when I do something and for whatever reason it goes wrong, it's my own responsibility, no one's else. So I keep it and I represent. I'm not like just escaping out of it by whatever way. Okay? So I take my responsibility regarding my commitments, regarding my mistakes. So I'm not going to pass my responsibility into someone else. Okay? I can ask someone, which is a correct way of saying, so I cannot do it anymore. Could you do for me? This is something else. The other thing is we throw our responsibility and we escape from it. It's a completely different situation. Next one. 15. Don't abuse the practice. Don't abuse the practice means do not use the practice of mind training, the teachings, the knowledge, the meditation techniques, and so on, for mundane reasons, such as making money, gaining fame, respect from others, and so on. Okay? Don't sprint to win the race. 16. Do not try to be the first of the class. You don't need to be the first one to train the mind on bodhicitta. We don't need to compare with others. How fast am I training? How fast are you training? Who is better? Who is not better? We don't have to hurry to win the race because there is no race. There is just our own inner process of transformation of each one of us. And we need to follow it according as our own inner process and not as a way how we need to force others and we need to, show that we are better than others in whatever way, because that's not how it should be. Okay, so do not sprint to win the race. The last two commitments, as they say. Pla dutumi ap, kigi yenla to duk mitsul. Don't turn gods into devils, first of all. Actually, the Tibetan is not saying the plural. It says, do not turn God into a devil. The God refers to something sacred, to something pure. The devil refers to something negative. So the meaning here is that do not let the practice of Lojong, that is supposed to give you love, compassion, wisdom, altruism, into something that will make you more selfish and ignorant. So if you see that by making the meditations, by training yourself in the Lojong, you become more selfish, don't let that happen. It should not be a reason for me to feel superior to others. Look how good I am. I am better than you because I train myself into love and compassion. You are not doing anything. How bad you are. If we become more arrogant, more selfish, more ignorant out of the practice of Lojong, it means we are doing exactly the wrong way. So don't let something that is so good as a God become so bad as a devil. Okay? Don't turn the gods into devils. I think it's quite clear. Because it can happen. Huh? Don't seek others' misery as a means to happiness. Don't seek others' misery as a means to happiness means do not do actions and make choices that deliberately we need the other to be in a situation of suffering in order for us to gain our situation of happiness. I will make the other example. On the other side, what is not what is saying in the vow. For example, when I went to India in the beginning to the monastery, there were some people that were very upset. For example, my grandparents. Later they understood and they accepted it. But in the very beginning, it was very difficult for them. So I remember talking to Rinpoche at the time and I was sad because I was saying, oh, look how much harm I am creating because they are suffering so much because of the choice that I made. And Rinpoche was saying, no, you are not harming them. They are not able to understand well the choice you make, but you have no any intention to harm them in any moment. And you are not harming them by any means. So this is one thing, when we make a choice and other people, they understand the choice in a different way, they relate to it in a specific way through which they suffer out of the choice that we make. No one have ever done anything in the world up to now, from what I believe, that there was no one that didn't like what was done. You know, Buddha had his cousin, and like this we can go on and on and on. The other thing is that when I, on purpose, will make you to remain in pain and I will make you to remain in poverty because out of your poverty I can keep my richness. Or because for forcing you to be in a difficult situation, I can keep my privilege. Okay? By making you having something that is bad, I can get something that is good. Okay? This is something that we should avoid. I think it's quite clear, right? And we can see this in different levels in our society. Okay? But we should look in our own behavior. We should not point the finger around. We should just look in our own behavior. All right? So with this, so don't seek others' misery as a means to your own happiness. So with this, we conclude the 18 commitments, which are not so difficult, right? Are not easy, but are not impossible, and are very powerful also. So it's commitments that if we want to train our mind, we should make everything possible to keep these commitments alive. Now we go to the 22 advices. Here we have the precepts. Neljor tamche chigi cha longnon tamche chigi cha toda nila chawa ni nibo kanchon söber cha nibo sodan de la sum. Every yoga should be performed as one. What do we mean by every yoga? It's not like Kriya Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or whatever other type of yoga, okay? When we talk about yoga here means the actions. It's the yoga of eating, the yoga of sleeping, the yoga of washing, the yoga of walking, the yoga of working, the yoga of having fun, whatever. It doesn't matter what we do, every action of ours should be performed as one only action. What is the one only action? To develop love, compassion, and wisdom. To train ourselves in love, compassion, and wisdom. To train ourselves in relative and absolute bodhicitta. The training of Lojong, our mental training. So it doesn't matter what we do, we should always be training ourselves in the developing of love, compassion, relative bodhicitta, and in the development of wisdom, absolute bodhicitta. Okay? All errors are to be amended by one means, which means it doesn't matter if we are in a good situation, in a bad situation, it doesn't matter what is the mental defilement that arises, we should deal with all situations with one method, which is the Lojong mind training. We should use the same teachings, the same meditations that we get within the Lojong, the mind training that we have seen in the previous points, in the previous days. We should use it to deal with every situation. It doesn't matter, whatever may be the difficulty. It doesn't matter if I am sad because of one thing, if I'm suffering because of another thing, if I have anger, if I have fear, if I have jealousy. It doesn't matter what is the defilement that may arise. I will deal with it through the practice of Lojong, through the practice of mind training. Okay? This is when it says all errors are to be amended by one means. Third, there are two activities at the beginning, one at the beginning and one at the end. Which means at the beginning of every positive action, we should generate our motivation, like in the beginning of the day. And we should dedicate our merits by the end of the day. So always we generate the motivation in the beginning and we dedicate in the end. Whichever occurs, be patient with both. When we say whichever occurs, be patient with both, means it doesn't matter if what is occurring it's a positive situation or a negative situation, if it's pleasurable or if it's unpleasurable. Okay? Whatever occurs, we should be patient with both, means we should not lose our mental training in both situations. Here, patience is regarding to our ability to keep our mental training alive. For example, even if we are in a good moment and there we are enjoying our moment of pleasure, I'm not caring about developing love and compassion now, Let me just enjoy my moment of pleasure. No, I enjoy my moment of pleasure, but I still train myself into development of love and compassion. I am going through a difficult moment and I still train myself in the practice of love and compassion, in the relative and absolute bodhicitta. So I keep my training alive at both moments, good moments and bad moments. So whichever occurs, good or bad, be patient with both. Do not lose your practice at any one of them. Guard both at the cost of your life. Which are both? Guard your commitments, your general commitments and your specific commitments of the mind training, even at the cost of your own life. It doesn't matter, whatever happens, it should not be an excuse, it should not be a reason for us to break our commitments. So guard your own commitments, general commitments and specific commitments, that's what we mean by both, even at the cost of your own life. Which means there are no reason whatsoever for us to break our own commitments. Next are the 4 sets of 3. So we say, Kawa sumla labar cha gyui tsuwo nyam sulang, nyampa meba nam sum gom, jalme sumdan dembarcha. Number 6. Train in the 3 difficulties. The 3 difficulties are basically, the first one is to be aware of our mental defilements when they arise. It's very important to see these 3 difficulties because they show us the gradual process. The first difficulty is when we see the mental defilement as it appears, but we are not able to control it. We see the anger, we see the jealousy and so on, but we are not able to control it at the same time. Okay? This is the first difficulty, when the mental defilement arises and we are able to see it, but we are not able to control it. Second training is second difficulty. Training the second difficulty is when we are able to apply the antidote when the mental defilement arises. I see that the mental defilement arises, but I do not follow it, and I put my energy in an opposite direction. Third difficulty, give continuity to the second. Because the natural process is, first I'm able to recognize the defilement appearing, but I'm not able to direct myself. Second, I'm able to direct myself in an opposite direction when I see the mental defilement appearing, but soon after I lose back again and I go back to the mental defilement. So the third is to keep constancy on the antidote, which is the third difficulty. Okay? The mental defilement is still coming there, but I know that I should not follow it. I put myself in an opposite direction and I keep myself in that opposite direction, in the antidote. So these are to train ourselves in the three difficulties. This is showing us how we should train ourselves on our path also. Well, next one. Seek the three principal causes. The three principal causes for our practice are to have a good and correct spiritual guide, to meet the correct guru, to have the predisposition to practice, and to have the minimum material conditions for our practice. Okay? So these are the three causes that we should always look for. 8. Don't let the three factors weaken. The three factors that we should not let to become weak is the gratitude and respect we have towards our gurus, the pleasure that we have, the joy in practicing the mind training, and the conscientiousness of body, speech, and mind. The conscientiousness of body, speech, and mind means the coherence that we have between what we know that is right and the way how we act with body, speech, and mind. So don't let the three factors weaken. 9. Never be parted from the three possessions. The three main possessions that we should never be separated from are a virtuous body, a virtuous speech, and a virtuous mind. Which means a virtuous conduct of body, a virtuous conduct of speech, and a virtuous conduct of mind. We should never be separated from such virtuous conduct of body, speech, and mind. Okay? Well, this we've finished these 4 vows with 3 aspects inside each one. The first cause is to have a correct guru. Second cause, to have predisposition for the Dharma, to want to practice. To seek the 3 principal causes. Exactly. To seek the 3 principal causes, no? The 3 principal causes are to have a guru, to want to practice the Dharma, and to have the minimum material condition. Third one. Okay? Because we can have the guru and we can have the best material conditions, but if we don't want to practice truly, we stay there where we are, no? Okay? Next one. It says, Yula chokme daktu jang, kyabdan tingjo kuin la che, kolwa namla taktu gom, kien shen dagla te mi cha. Number 10. Train constantly without partiality. Train constantly without partiality means we need to train our mind, which means the Lojong, practice the Lojong, independently if we are with friends, enemies, or indifferent people or circumstances or situations. We should train without partiality in all circumstances in which we may be. Okay? Value and encompassing and far-reaching practice. What does in English encompassing means? Kyabdan tingjong. Tibetan it means like value a practice that is vast and profound. Which means that is vast because it takes into consideration all our actions. So it doesn't matter if I am talking, if I am walking, if I'm eating, whatever I do, the practice should take into consideration everything should be part of my practice. And it should be profound, tingjong in Tibetan, which means I should not do the practice just verbally, saying that I'm saying, not externally. It should be a deep, profound mental training that I am doing. Okay? 12. Train consistently to deal with difficult situations. So when we say that we need to train consistently to deal with difficult situations, it means that where do we need to practice the Lojong? First of all, in the difficult situations. And here, Trichan Rinpoche numbers 5 difficult situations, which are to practice with the people we live with, which means our friends, the people we've worked together, the people we relate daily, with our own family, with our enemies, with those that we have benefited and in exchange have treated us badly, have harmed us, and with those that we have a sort of karmic aversion. We don't like them and we don't know why, okay? So these are the 5 difficult circumstances in which we should start practicing at all. We should not start practicing with the little children that are poor and sick in the other side of the world. Okay, I'm sure we should have love for the children, but where do we need to really train ourselves to develop love and compassion and patience and so on? With the people that are around to us, in the actual situations that we experience daily near to us. Okay? So, next, to 13. Don't rely on other conditions. Don't rely on other conditions means do not wait to have perfect conditions in order to practice the Dharma. Do not wait the day when I will go on pension, I will practice. The day when I will have no more this difficulty, I will practice. The day when that person will change his behavior, I will practice. The day when this will happen, that would be like this or that way, then I will practice the Lojong. No. Every condition is a good condition to practice the Lojong. Do not wait any condition to do your practice. Okay? So, the last ones, part say. Taretso nyam sulam, kolomicha, rejomicha, to tulcho tu jang, tokcho nigi tawarcha, yu magom kolomidom, yutsamicha, worche midum. Engage in the principal practice right now. Engage in the principal practice right now means there are many things that we have to do in this life, but from all the things that we have to do in this life, the main one is to train our mind to develop love and compassion. From the things that are only of this life and the things that are of the next life, which one is more important? The things that are also for the next life. From the things that are also of benefit for the next life, which is the one more important? To train in bodhicitta, relative and absolute. For example, is it good to train to develop concentration? Yes. But concentration without love and wisdom is not so useful. So it's more important first to develop compassion and love and wisdom. Then also along the way we need to develop concentration. But our main priority of our actions, of our practices, is to develop love, compassion, relative bodhicitta, and wisdom, absolute bodhicitta. Don't apply a wrong understanding. Here we have 6 different types of wrong understandings that we should not apply. It's the wrong patience, the wrong taste, the wrong compassion, the wrong affection, the wrong aspiration, and the wrong rejoicing. So, first of all, wrong patience. It's like when we are not able to endure difficulties for the Dharma, but we are able to endure difficulties for mundane things. Oh, I am so patient, I have so much effort, I can endure difficulties. I stayed the whole night online to get the tickets for a show or for the soccer game, you know. Okay, I can endure a lot for something that is mundane, but I'm not able to stay 2 hours sitting down and meditating. So, that's not the right type of patience. Nothing against the soccer game. It's just not the right type of patience. Second, the wrong type of taste is when we have taste for mundane things, such as money, pleasures, fame, but we do not have no taste for the spiritual practice. Third, compassion. We have compassion of the Dharma practitioner. Oh, poor guy, look there, he is meditating in the cave all alone by himself. And we don't have compassion of the person that is, let's say, the boss of the mafia, that there he is, full of power and money, but he's full of negative actions. We should have compassion of those that are acting in a negative way, not of those that are acting in a positive way. Then the fourth is the wrong affection, which means when we give affection to someone, not with the intention to truly help the person to develop spiritually, but only to gain personal benefit. Okay. Then we have the wrong intention, aspiration, is when we have aspiration for mundane things and we don't have aspiration for spiritual things. And the wrong rejoicing, where we rejoice for negative things and we don't rejoice for positive things. So, don't apply a wrong understanding. 16. Don't be sporadic. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't do. We should practice with constancy. That's very important. Practice unflinchingly, which means like without any doubt. We follow our practice with no doubt. We are sure, with certainty, we follow our practice. Trisha Rinpoche here gives the example of the mother of the geisha that could make soup with stone. Because there is a mantra to transform stones into soup. And she had so much faith in it that she could make it. When he told her that she was reciting not in the right pronunciation, she changed the pronunciation, but then she had doubt, and then the soup was not coming anymore. When she went back to the way how she was certain, the soup would come again. So he said, practice with certainty, without any doubts. Okay? Release investigation and analysis, which means in our path we should have general understanding, investigation, and we should have analysis, which should go for a deeper understanding about impermanence, about love, about compassion, about generosity, about every aspect of the path. We should have a general understanding, and then we should go at a deeper understanding about it. Don't be boastful. Don't feel superior to others because you are practicing Lojong. Because I am a Dharma practitioner. Look how humble I am, how special I am. Don't feel superior to others because you are practicing the Dharma. Don't be short-tempered. This is quite clear. Okay? Do not allow any sort of small types of situations to take away your patience and your stability. Don't make a short-lived attempt, which means don't become happy just because of a small condition. Don't become sad just because of a small condition. Have stability on your path and on your way. So we should make our practice to be constant, not because something good happened, I practice, something bad happened, I don't practice. We should be constant. So not going big ups and big downs, but try to find balance and constancy in our way of practicing. And last but not least, do not expect gratitude. I practice the Lojong, I train myself, I develop love and compassion, but I am not doing any of this because I want something in exchange. I give love to you, I don't expect you to give anything to me, not even a thank you. I'm doing it because I know it's the right thing to do, and because I feel happy doing it. It's the best for me and for others. That's why I'm doing it. Not because I do not expect anything back from anyone. I don't expect my teacher to say what a good practitioner you are. I don't expect the people around me to say, oh, how grateful I am to you. I don't expect anything like that. So, do not expect gratitude. Okay? With this we conclude the 22 advices, precepts of the mind training. And we will conclude with a conclusion which was made by Geshe Chekawa. Okay? So, to conclude, Geshe Chekawa said, Rangi, mepa mangwegyu, dunga tamnye kiesene, danzin dulwe damngashu, tanishiyan mikyoto. My manifold aspirations have given rise to humiliating criticism and suffering, in the sense that my many selfish aspirations that I had in my life gave result just to more suffering and criticism and difficulties. But having received instruction for taming the misconception of self, ignorance and selfishness, even if I die now, because the translation, even if I have to die, is a not correct translation, because sure I have to die. Even if I die now, I have no regrets. Okay? So, Tanyi Shiamikyoto, even if I die now, I have no regrets. It's not even if I have to die, because sure I have to die. Okay? So, what does that mean? I have tried for a long period of my life to be happy by fulfilling my selfish objectives. And the more I tried to fulfill my selfish objectives, the more I got criticism, the more I got conflicts, the more I was insatisfied, and the more I suffered. While I got this beautiful, fortunate opportunity to receive the teachings on how to overcome my own selfishness and ignorance. And by that, I can experience true happiness. So now, even if I need to die right now, I have no regrets, because finally I truly found the correct path that I'm walking, which is the path to eliminate selfishness, to develop true peace. So this is the most important thing for me. This is the main priority. I have no regrets after that. So, and finish by saying, Sarva Mangalam, may all be auspicious. So what it's saying here is basically that the practice of Lojong is not just a practice that we do sometimes, once a week, somewhere. It's a lifestyle. It's a choice of life that we bring to every action of our life. And it brings us what we most want, which is a state of stability, of joy. So, as we said in the very beginning, selfishly speaking, is better to be altruistic. And I found a valid method that may bring me this state of joy and satisfaction by developing love and compassion. And that's the main priority in my life. All the rest are secondary. All the rest are momentary. All the rest will pass. But this, if I practice correctly, I will keep it with myself. I continue with it from life to life. Okay? In other words, the main priority for us is truly practicing the Lojong, and we are so fortunate to receive these teachings. Because, here we are in Italy, 2017, and we are entering in contact with these beautiful, important teachings, powerful teachings, which, as I said in the beginning, this booklet for me is more precious than $10 billion, than anything that we may have. Sure, if I have many of the same copies of the booklets and you want to exchange for $10 billion, I have no problem with it. But, for less also. But the point is that I'm not talking about the physical booklet. I'm talking about the knowledge that is here within. Okay? The knowledge that is here within, existing within an uninterrupted lineage. It's so precious. I would not exchange it for anything. Because this is what can really give us true state of happiness, All the rest is just momentary, comes and goes. So, we have had this opportunity. I had the preciousness of receiving these teachings from my gurus. I received the transmission from Kanchen Rinpoche, from Trisha Rinpoche, from Panchen Lobsang Chokyi Gyaltsen in Tibet, from Geshe Tupten in India, and so on, from different masters. I received the Lojong, the 8 verses mind training from Dragon Rinpoche. So, many different opportunities. They received these teachings from their gurus, that received from their gurus, that received from their gurus. And like this we go on until we reach Geshe Chekawa, until we reach the time of Atisha, until we reach Buddha Shakyamuni. So we are so fortunate to have this, because these teachings, until they come to our hands, they went through so many difficult moments, There was, for example, Cultural Revolution in China. I don't know if you really have a clear idea what that means. People gave their lives, literally, for these teachings to be here with us nowadays. People took this as the main priority of their lives to make it available for us here today. So, how can we assure that a next generation here will be able to receive these teachings and be able to have it? By putting it into practice ourselves, by making it part of our lives. Okay? By integrating the knowledge, the meaning, by reading the text, by remembering it daily, and by integrating it into our daily life. That's how we can assure that the next generation will have it. Because nowadays, okay, people can have the book, and what's the point of having the book if there is no more transmission and no more knowledge and no more experience? So, because of that, we need, what's the condition to be able to transmit? To have received and believe in it and have an understanding on it. Anyone can transmit. As long as you have received it, as long as you believe in it, as long as you have an understanding about it. Okay? So, for me it's a great joy to be able to share this with everyone here. And we have had many days now looking at the Lojong, the mind training. We could stay even much, much longer. But we could do in this 12 days. We could see quite a lot. But it's something that is not just we do 12 days and then finish. It's something that we need to keep as something very precious for our lives. By reading the verses again and again, by meditating on the giving and taking, by transforming the adverse circumstances into the path, by bringing it truly to our life. And that's where it really makes a difference. Okay? So with this we conclude. So we make our final dedication. I like just to do one thing, very briefly, which is I would like just to read the very beginning of the text as an auspiciousness for us to see it once again. Tekpa chenpo Lojong tundu me tsawa shukso, tukje chenpo la chaotse lo, menga duzi nimbo di sirlimpa ne gyubayin, dorje nima junshi shin shungdo laso shebarcha, niwa ngabo deba di janju lamtu gyurwa yin. Talalab. Homage to great compassion. The essence of this nectar of secret instructions is transmitted from the Master from Sumatra. You should understand the significance of this instruction as like a diamond, the sun, and a medicinal tree. This time of the 5 degenerations will then be transformed into the path to the fully awakened state. First, train in the preliminaries. Jetsun lame kotse rapten chi namkaratin le chochur gepada losan tempe drume sasumge drove musel tatu ne gyurchi chanchubo semcho rimboche Ma ke panam ke gyurchi, ke pa nyambara me pa ya, kongne konto pelwar shu. Nimo dele tsendele, nime kuyan delek shing, ninsen takto delek pe, koncho sumke jingi lob. Concho sumke ngodrubat sol, concho sumge trashishu. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.